Let's welcome back Bill and Colin here. We're going to talk about potential big threes. But Bill, I want to start with you because you said, look, you don't really need a big three. You just kind of need the two right guys together.
Yeah, I think it's a big two. Am I allowed to just like give Colin a little bit of a hard time that he didn't put the Miami Heat team that I covered? What did Pete Prisco help you with this list? You gotta put the Miami. I'm just kidding, Pete. I love you. You gotta put the Miami Heat at number 2. They got 2 champions. All right. The truth is, I covered that Heat team, so I'm super biased. There's no doubt. It's probably the right list. Yeah, I do think we've gotten to a point where big twos, and it's interesting, I'd be curious Colin's view on this. I don't know how you characterize Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, at least in this last run. It's almost like Curry was the big one, and those two guys maybe added up together to the second part of the big two. So I think if you can get 3 guys, and I don't think, for me, the Milwaukee Bucks don't have a big 3, with all respect to Drew Holiday, even Chris Middleton. It feels like a superstar model, and then you have some depth and another star or co-star as a part of that. But if you can go out there and get a big 3, it's obviously going to be really helpful. I just think the way the cap works and the fact that the CBA is starting to actually have the impact it was supposed to. Durant kind of obscured when he went to the Warriors how this was supposed to work. I just think it's a harder thing to pull off now.
Okay, a super team model. So that's what we've asked you guys to create, a couple teams in situations where we could see a new superstar team or a big 3. Colin, we're going to start with you. You're trying to get the Lakers some help, and you like Kyrie to head there.
Hey, look, as Bill said, it's very hard to make super teams these days, so this might be kind of a pipe dream for Lakers fans. But look, obviously Brooklyn has had a hard time with Kyrie over this last couple of seasons, actually. And obviously the Lakers have had a hard time with Russell Westbrook. So there is some chatter. I don't know how much validity there is to it, that there could be a swap of those two, require a sign and trade of Kyrie either opting in or signing a new contract with Brooklyn, then being traded to the Lakers. That would create a Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, Anthony Davis big 3. And, Kyrie Irving has his issues, but that's pretty enticing in terms of being able to compete for a championship when Kyrie Irving is on the floor, which, has been increasingly infrequent over the last couple of years. When he's on the floor, he's a very good player, and we know how much he complements LeBron James because of their days in Cleveland. Anthony Davis would be a perfect addition to those two. So I don't know how likely it is, but if we're talking about potential super team, something that could actually happen and make an impact in the NBA, Kyrie Irving going to the Lakers to join LeBron James and Anthony Davis would make a huge splash.
Let's go to biased Bill here when it comes to the Heat. I'm just kidding, Bill. But you do, look, so much about this Heat team is like, look, they've got so many of the pieces there, and this team feels like a Heat culture. So who could you add to take them to that next level?
Yeah, I actually think Collins is more realistic than mine for a lot of reasons. But I would, if we're trying to conjure up some way to put a big 3 together, I'm a big believer in Jimmy Butler, especially in the postseason. We know what Bam is. Zach LaVine as the missing piece would be really interesting. Now, the reason that's difficult, well, there's several. One is that just talking to folks around the NBA, there's not a lot of confidence that if LaVine decides he wants to leave this summer, that the Chicago Bulls are going to be helpful in facilitating a two-way trade, right? They're going to be a part of a sign and trade deal, especially with the Miami Heat. There's a little bit of history there. But I do think that the Heat have some younger guys that could be of some value and of some interest to a team like the Bulls. And we know that Pat Riley teams don't tend to value the draft as much as other front offices do. So if LaVine decides that he wants to go somewhere else and he wants to go to Miami, and the Bulls change the course that as I understand it, they're on now, and they're willing to help facilitate that with a sign and trade and give LaVine that extra year to get some pieces in return, I think that would be a fascinating team. And I'll just end here. Pat Riley loves stars. He loves big game hunting. Nobody thought that other big 3 team with LeBron and Bosh and Wade was going to happen until it did. So I just think it's an interesting place to keep an eye on when we talk about trying to put together a triumvirate of this level of basketball excellence.
I will admit that Miami is a lot cooler than Dallas, even though I am from Dallas. But Colin, you have another option for Zach LaVine, and Dallas is cool when you have Luka Doncic.
Yeah, I've been in love with Zach LaVine and Luka Doncic pairing up. It's a pipe dream of mine. I don't know how realistic it is. As Bill said, there is some talk that LaVine will go back to Chicago. But I think this would just be a perfect pairing. That's a super team in itself with Luka Doncic and Zach LaVine. LaVine's off-ball shooting and creation abilities is exactly what you need next to Luka Doncic. And then if you want to talk about a big three, they just traded for Christian Wood. And I know most of the mainstream NBA audience probably hasn't seen a lot of this guy because of the bad teams he's been on. But this is a 6'10 guy who can block shots. He can step out and knock down a three. Something to be desired on the defensive end. But you think getting in there with Jason Kidd, he'll help fix them there. So if he could give you, maybe 75, 80% of what Chris Bosh was to the Miami Heat back with the Bills' favorite team, the Heatles, I think that would be a really interesting, big two with maybe a half on the way to being a big three. So Zach LaVine going to Dallas to join up with Luka Doncic. That would be an incredible development this offseason.
Look, the one thing we can all agree. Go ahead, Bill.
No, yeah. I was saying, like everyone else, I'm also smitten with the idea of Luka Doncic. So I'm all about these big 2.5s in Dallas.
Okay, so give Luka some help because you also have an idea of how to do. I mean, the number one thing is the Mavs. It became very clear Luka can't do everything. So how would you make this Mavs team just a little bit better?
All right, so here's the asterisk that I think this is unlikely. In fact, I know for a fact talking to people that Collins is more likely, and that's also not likely. And most people I talk to think LaVine's going to remain a Bull and think Bradley Beal's going to stay in Washington. But I'm gonna swap out Zach LaVine for Bradley Beal. If something changes, as I understand Bradley Beal's thinking, or at least the thinking that people around him and around the league think that he's going through right now, if he decides not to stay in Washington, there's no better place, I think, than Dallas. For the reason you just hit on and that Colin just talked about. Luka Doncic, the first 5 reasons. And Wood is a really interesting player in Dallas. And he would be, I think, a really impressive, if underrated by the casual fan, piece as the third part of a team that can make a push. So if it's not Zach LaVine and you can get Bradley Beal to decide he wants to leave Washington, D.C., which, again, few people that I've talked to think that's realistic, I would love to see Beal and Luka pair up with the Mavs and make that team really dangerous for a long time.
Well, like you said, like you guys said, some of these seem like pipe dreams. But if we've learned anything over the past couple of years, pretty much anything is possible there. All right, guys, hang on just a second. Taking a look at the top NBA free agents this offseason that we have. Who could be moving? James Harden with his new team there, the 76ers. You heard Bill say it seems like Zach LaVine will stay with Chicago, but we'll wait and see. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.